Welcome to another Beyond All Reason video, everyone. Most of you have probably been wondering where on earth I've been, and I recently had a baby just a couple days ago. So, not very many videos being produced, and then just a bunch of changes to my schedule. But we are back again today. We're going to be doing a eco video here, going over every bit of eco that you should need to know to get you well on your way to becoming a higher OS player. All right, or even just mastering AI, whatever you are here to do, we can help you get there with a little bit of eco. So it's been a minute since I've done an eco video, so I wanted to do a video that's going over every single aspect of the eco, like of economy in general, for you guys, just so you can hit everything, or at least most things in one stop. So that's the goal of this video. We're going to be going over early economy, mid economy, late economy, and just some of the thought processes you need to have when dealing with these areas. So first off, you're going to be starting just placing your commander. Generally, you're going to want to try to be in a position that is not a 2 mechs if you can help it. Obviously, if there's only 2 mechs available, then go for that. You can also zoom in and check the count of the mechs, the richness of the metal resource there. And so if you have like a higher metal richness but less of the mechs total, then it's still going to be a stronger position. So say, for instance, this was a 5 instead of a 2, then this would be a very, very strong starting location. Anyway, so yeah, when you first open up into a map, definitely give a scan around the map to see, are there any higher metal mechs? And usually you'll find those in the center. We have a 2.8 here versus a 2.2. So that's a better mechs that we would want to build, or metal extractor that you would want to place there. So you'll often find that you want to prioritize the further up mechs as quick as you can without losing them due to fighting and skirmishing. So a good opening that I recommend for new players especially is just a simple 3 mechs going into 2 solar panels. This will get you exactly enough energy to be able to go straight into your factory, whatever factory that may be, whether it's a bot factory, a vehicle factory, airplane factory, or a hovercraft factory. This opening should get you to where you need to be without any, extra stuff that you have to worry about. You don't have to worry about wind speed. You don't have to worry about any type of confusion there. You can just focus on that. Now, if you want to get more advanced with your opening, you're going to want to go for what we would call the wind opening, which is a little bit more tricky to get down because it all depends on what the wind speed actually is. This map has an average wind speed of like 20, so you can see it there. It says average wind speed on this map is 20, so that's really high. But on other maps, you'll have a lower wind potential, so you want to be a little bit more careful on when you open with wind. So if you decided you wanted to go with wind, consider it more like gambling. You're gambling on the wind speed to be good, or versus gambling on it to be bad. So there's a little bit of math that goes with that, where you have a higher percentage chance of it being good. Just not to belabor it too much, but it is a little bit more of a gamble. So if you do end up going wind speed, you're going to have first mechs, second mechs, 1 wind turbine, and you're going to hopefully have a wind speed of around 6 to 7 wind per, wind coming in, wind energy coming in. So you're going to want to check up here, is it 6 to 7 wind speed? If that's the case, then you can just have that 1 wind turbine and go into your 3rd mechs. You might even want a second one before, so you want 1, 2 mechs and then 2 wind, depending on the wind speed. If it's only around 7 wind speed, then you'll probably want a second turbine and then go into your 3rd mechs. And the main goal is to not stall your energy. If your energy bar is starting to dip down, and it ends up hitting 0, that means you've hit a stall, and that's what you're trying to avoid early on. So just be aware of that. If for some reason you have decent wind speed, try to only have one wind turbine instead of two, but use the second one as needed. So we got a decent amount of wind speed here, so that's good. We shouldn't be stalling on wind at all. And we go straight into the build order here. Now, due to the fact we have 21, 22 wind speed, I'll probably only need 2 to 3 wind turbines to get my factory out. What we're looking for is we want to get at least plus 70, around plus 70 energy. You could be maybe plus 60 energy, or you could be maybe plus 75 energy. Both of those would be okay, but we're going to want to be around plus 70 energy. Okay, and see, we're at plus 75. We should be good. Even if it dips down a bit, we have tons of energy coming in, so we're totally fine there. And then we're just going to keep building wind turbines right after we get this factory. Let's go ahead and pause here. So this is something where a lot of people, I think, especially early on, struggle. And that is, what do I do next? Okay, so I have my build opening. I have plenty of energy coming in. I got my 3 mexes down. I never did any energy stall. What do I do now? We place down our bot factory. The first thing you're going to want to do is build, honestly, take a look at your map, right? You have to determine, is this map, because each map's going to be a little bit different. Is there any reclaim on it? So if I take my commander, and I zoom over this whole map, there is 2,500 metal and 123,000 energy on this map. So this is a very resource dense map right off the bat. So what a smart person will do is they will grab a res bot or a Lazarus. They call it a resurrection bot, a reclaim bot. Those are all terms for it. You'll want to build a Lazarus on this map because of the amount of resources that are just on this, just available to us in the trees. The trees are worth a decent amount of energy. Then these rocks are worth a decent amount of energy, or a decent amount of metal. So you want to try to use those resources early to help boost your economy. It's just, think of it like a little nudge to help you get going. And the Lazarus bot or the Grave Robber bot are a great way to get your economy boosting towards a proper, more steady flow. So we're going to be building a Lazarus bot right off the bat, and then probably a couple ticks, and that's going to be to help defend. So the ticks are going to be, you can use them for harassment. I don't recommend that if you're a new player. Just work on focusing on protecting your Lazarus as he goes around and eats up some of this energy across the map. So you'll see, as we get going here, our commander is going to start to use a lot of energy, and that's where the Lazarus bot will come in and help eat up some of these reclaim trees, and we can add that energy into our income and just help boost our economy a bit more rapidly. So let's keep going here. Actually, first off, let's say, okay, we have our first move planned. This is where a lot of players probably make a mistake, is having your first move planned, but you want to think a little bit further ahead than that. Okay, so we know we want reclaim. What's next? We're going to want some construction bots, because we have a lot of metal extractors out here. We want to get these all, we want to capture all of these metal extraction points as quickly as we can, and that's across the whole map, right? So we're going to want to build at least one construction bot to start capturing the metal extractors and putting our metal extractor on it. So that's our second move, would be one construction bot. The second construction bot is going to be a resource multiplier so that we have a consistent energy income throughout the game. So what we'll be doing is we'll be building some of these wind turbines here, and we're going to be building those probably in a pattern of 2x2. That's what I recommend, 2x2 pattern, because that uses up very little space. And buildings in Beyond All Reason have an explosion radius. So once one of these buildings dies, there's an explosion that occurs when it dies, and that explosion will do damage to all of the surrounding buildings. So when you're building wind turbines, if you end up building them in a 3x3 pattern, when you end up building them in a 3x3 pattern like this, where it's 3 wide, one explosion will chain react and blow up all of your wind turbines. So instead of killing some of your wind turbines, it will blow up every single one in that cluster. And that's what you really want to avoid. So I always recommend building a 2x2 instead of that third, or even, you could even build a 4 or 5 wide. Don't do that if you can help it. Okay. So that's my recommendation. And that's what we're going to be doing with the second construction bot. Now, all of these things are things you need to be thinking about before you place down your lab. Okay. Because as soon as this lab goes down, you need to be, okay, I want my Lazarus. You need to be thinking, I want my Lazarus. I want my ticks. I want my construction bots. I want some pawns. Okay. Pawns are cheap. They're decent units to fend off against harassment, and you're going to want some of those early on. Probably around like 15 would be a good idea. Then you could go into some rocket bots. Those have longer range. Some plasma bots. Those are more of your frontline unit that just holds and defends for your longer range rocket bots. And then you have your Centurion. This is an anti-swarm. It has a fast firing laser weapon, and it's a little bit tankier. So you could just build a handful of these, and we'll get into what to do with those later. So now we have our bot lab already maxed out. It has a ton of stuff that's planned on it. It's going to be cranking out lots of bots as soon as the lab gets set, and we basically get to set it and forget it, and we'll get into that a little bit later on how to just set it and forget it. As little bit of actions per minute that you spend on your bot lab, the better for you. Okay, and that's what we're trying to accomplish. So we got that, and then our commander, after he builds this bot lab, he's going to start using a lot more energy. So we're going to want to build a couple wind turbines as well right afterwards, right after this lab gets finished. So let's go ahead and get started again.
Started.
So we got our lab done. Okay, and as soon as you see that unit available, tell it to start reclaiming. Okay. You can be a little bit more picky with it as you get better at the game. You might want to do a little bit of energy and then go into some of the metal, and then like come over here and do like a much more aggressive and precision type of reclaim field. But for now, since we're just kind of giving you a rough starting, we're going to just go with a wide range so that we reclaim everything in this reclaim field. For those who don't know, pressing E is the fast way to select reclaim. So just press E, and then you can draw a circle just by clicking and then dragging, and that will increase your reclaim field to the size of that circle. If you want it smaller, you reduce. If you want it bigger, you drag out. There you go. All right. We'll keep going from there. Our commander producing more of these windmills to increase our energy, because right now we're using quite a bit of energy, and we want to be able to increase. Now,
game paused.
This is something that I think a lot of newer players don't realize is important, and that is especially early on, view your energy as a timer for when you should boost your lab. And by boosting your lab, I mean using your commander to use the build power, which the commander has a total of 300 build power right here in the bottom left corner, 300 build power. And you can boost your lab to increase the speed at which units are produced. So when you have a full energy bar at the very start of the game, try to boost your lab with that energy. Okay, and you'll see, I'll give you an example of this in a minute. So we're just going to keep building wind. We got our Resbot. He's going out to go do some reclaim. Okay, pause here.
Game paused.
We got wasting energy now. So that means we are maxed out on energy, and we want to use our commander to boost the lab. So we're going to hold shift and right click on our lab, and after this windmill is finished, we'll be starting to produce units at that point.
Started.
So now we start boosting, and we have so much energy at our disposal, we might end up just boosting the lab from here on out. Some maps you won't have quite as much energy, so you'll probably pause on your boosting after this drops down to 0 and start building more windmills.
Game
Okay.
paused.
We got our first construction bot out. This guy is going to be just building metal extractors everywhere he can. Okay. Now, normally, I guess that's probably a bad example. Normally, you're going to want to be careful on how you build your metal extractors. You're probably going to want to build in areas that you can control. So if you think you can control this area, build metal extractors all the way back to where you can control. And then as you control this area further, you can build more metal extractors in this area and control this zone as well. And then slowly, as the game progresses, try to push your zone further into their side and take some of their metal extractors. So we're going to start with building just metal extractors here, and then coming over on this side and building some metal extractors here as well. Okay, so I think that'll be a good balance, and that'll keep us from getting attacked too early on.
Game started.
Oops. Let me just get that back. Also, something I forgot to tell you.
Paused.
So if you want to do an area mix or an area metal extractor build, what you can do is click this and it'll pop up a circle that you click and drag, similarly to what you do with like the reclaim. In another way to do it is to double press Z, double tap Z, and that'll also pop up the mechs, area mechs that you can click and drag. So a very fast hotkey to learn early on is double press Z to get your area mechs and draw a big circle going to all the mechs that you want to capture.
Game started.
Okay, now we got our second. So you see we're pausing like every couple seconds, and that's because there's a lot of things in the very beginning that you have to go get stuff building rapid. So we're pausing every couple seconds. Anyway, so this construction bot, now we're going into some windmills, and we're going to do the same pattern that I said earlier of 2x2, and we're just going to do a lot of windmills because we're going to need a lot of energy.
Game started.
Okay, now
Game paused.
one more thing I wanted to mention here, and that is we have all of our construction units have been built, and now we have our scouts here. These guys are helping with our expansion, just making sure we don't get harassed. They're a fighting unit. Then we have our build units working on mexes, and also we have our resurrection unit reclaiming all of these resources. Then we have one more of our construction units building a bunch of wind turbines. Okay, now we're working on building fighting units, and these are going to be our frontline, our raiding bots. The pawn would be a raiding bot. These would all be frontline units here. And you can change the amount that you want to use. I would definitely add in a couple Lazarus bots as well, because those are really good at healing units that are weak. Think of them like a medic. That's kind of the style of unit they are. So once you get the right ratio, maybe you want a few less pawns, maybe you want anti-air bots, and maybe a couple scouts, tick units. Just build however many you want. And once you get a good ratio that you like, you can just press the repeat button, and this will mean that this factory will build all of these units and then repeat building all of these units again. So it's kind of a ratio that will come out of your factory automatically. I also like to build one construction bot because that will help me be able to increase in my production over time. So like if I'm running low on build power and I'm starting to overflow in metal and overflow in energy, having a few of these construction bots coming out early on can help me spend all of the resources that I do have. So let's go ahead and keep going.
Started.
So we got decent amounts of units here. We're just going to be defending, making sure that no units are crossing. Let's delete this. Making sure no units are crossing into our territory. We have our commander here as a defense, We could even build a single laser turret back here that will help defend this area from harassment. Sometimes people will bring raiders in to like harass your windmills back here and destroy your early economy. So having one of those is a good idea almost always. So we got a decent amount of units going. We can just kind of cover the whole area. And I'm not really up against any heavy units. I'm not up against any like serious bad guys. This is just kind of a practice map and to give you an idea of how the game will progress. Anyway, so once your front line gets more established and you end up like you know, having some back and forth where the enemy's trying to push you and you're trying to push the enemy or whatever, and you're stopping raids and everything, you're going to want to think about doing a T2 transition. Now, T2 transitions can be a little bit tough. Sorry, I'm just going to do a little bit of quality of life things for myself just to make it easier for me. T2 transitions can be a bit tough because they take a lot of metal. And what we mean by T2 transition is we're going to change our production from this single Tech 1 bot lab, and we're going to change it over to a Tech 2 bot lab or an advanced bot lab. Now we have a decent amount of energy income and we have a decent amount of metal income, but we don't have quite enough. So a Tech 2 bot lab, you can see here it costs 2,900 metal and 15,000 energy. So it's quite an investment of metal and energy. And so I usually will recommend that you don't go for a T2 lab unless your metal is maxed out. So if you have like 13,000 metal, then and you're like overflowing metal, then I would recommend going for a bot lab. Or maybe not overflowing metal, but you have like a metal storage, for instance, then I would recommend going for a T2 bot lab because those are going to give you a huge economy boost, which we will be talking about here shortly. Let's go ahead and finish that. We're gonna just go straight for our T2. Bring our energy down a bit. We have a lot of energy. Also, one thing I wanted to mention. So, one important factor of Beyond All Reason that's is kind of unique compared to a lot of other RTS is the energy conversion. So I have this little tab up here that you can add in the settings. If you want to enable it, you can just go to conversion, and it's this energy converter usage. So this just gives you a little bit more stats, and I really like having this up there. That way I can see how much of my energy I'm converting. So in this game, when you start producing a lot of energy, you can build these things called energy converters, and they turn 70 energy into 1 metal every second. So every second that's going by, it's worth a metal. A metal extractor is producing 2 metal per second, whereas an energy converter is producing 1 metal per second. So think of these as almost like a metal extractor if you build 2 of them and can fund it. You'll see here that right now my metal extractors are running, or not my metal extractors, my energy converters are running at 26%, which means that I have a lot of energy converters and very little energy income. So as long as I am below 100% of energy conversion, I'm at a good position because they're really rather cheap. The T1 ones are rather cheap. It only costs 1 metal to build and 1,000 energy. So it's a great investment early on with maps that have lots of wind power. You can really start cranking out lots of metal just by a few of these energy converters. But they also are rather explosive, so you want to be very careful with them. Anyway, so we have a decent amount of that. I just wanted to explain what I was doing here with the energy converters.
Game started.
So we still have only around 700 metal, so we're gonna actually turn this off. Now, this is what I would call a risky T2 transition, and this is what I'm going to show you guys how to do today, is a risky T2 transition. Obviously, we don't have any fighting going on, but if we did, we would want to, play very carefully, because we're going to eventually we're going to be sucking up our T1 lab, or killing it, basically. Not killing it, but reclaiming the lab, and that's going to give us 650 metal, because that's how much metal is inside this lab right now. And we're going to use that metal to build our T2 lab. Now, this is something you want to do very carefully, because if you end up getting pushed on your front line and enemies start flooding into you and getting close to your economy, then you're going to end up dying, because you don't have any way to produce units, and all of your metal is going to be going into a lab. So this is a risky thing to do. I wouldn't recommend doing it unless you are a little bit better at the game and know what you can essentially get away with. So we're going to be getting our construction bot, building the T2 lab. So we have the advanced bot lab. We're going to be placing that down, and we're going to have our commander basically reclaiming this bot lab along with the Lazarus bot. We're going to have all our Lazarus bot reclaiming this lab here, so that we can use that metal to fund our T2 lab.
Game started.
Alrighty. And with all this build power, we're going to easily reclaim this lab. And then we're going to push our commander up to the T2 lab and have him help build the T2 lab. So one thing also that's important is the res bots are not able to help build buildings. They are only used for reclaiming or repairing. They cannot build structures. So keep that in mind. They are very, very nice units, but they cannot build structures.
Game started.
So we're just going to have them come over here and start reclaiming more of that energy, getting that used up nicely. And we have 1,000 metal, and we're halfway built almost with our lab. So we might end up stalling a little bit when it comes to metal, but not too significantly. So this would be considered an okay transition, but still kind of risky. So now we're a bit low, and we are low. So I'm going to turn these guys to low prio and let them finish building. And at this point, what you would want to do if you end up stalling like this, you're going to want to grab your resurrection bots and try to reclaim every single bit of metal that you can find on the map. So I'm sending these guys to go after every single ounce of metal they can find across the whole entire map, because we need every bit of it in order to pay for this T2 lab. Okay. Every little rock. Anyway, so we got our T2 lab. Now,
paused.
The second we get this, we have a lot of things to do. You could be tempted to start building a bunch of units and be like, oh wow, look at all these fancy units we can use, and we can do all sorts of cool stuff with them. If that is what you want to do, you are incorrect. You do not want to build a bunch of units right off the bat. You want to only build your advanced construction bot. I would build one of these and then maybe a couple of the assistant bots as well. These are assistant constructor bots. So we're gonna get our construction units here to build the T2 bot. And what this guy is going to be doing is he's going to be upgrading all of our metal extractors that we have. Okay, so he's going to start building the T2 metal extractor. Now this metal extractor is extremely valuable, a very, very strong building, and I cannot emphasize this enough. Building your metal extractors as soon as you have T2 economy available is the very first thing you should do. Very, very first thing. Okay, the reason for this is an advanced metal extractor is able to give you 4 times your economy in one building. Okay, it costs 600 metal, so it's a little bit metal dense, but it gives you 4 times the metal production. And this is the very first way to start scaling your economy to be able to essentially take over the entire map and really have the resources to produce the T2 units that you're going to want to use.
Game started.
So we got these guys, they're going to be following our T2 Con around, and they're going to be dumping every bit of metal we can into these mexes here. And we might build a couple more butlers just because we want to be able to use all of this metal that we're going to be getting as we produce these T2 mexes here. We're starting to go a little bit low on energy here. Metal extractors, these T2 metal extractors are very energy dense at 7,000 per metal extractor. That's quite a lot of energy. So it would be a good idea to have one energy storage just so that when you do have enough energy, you can store it up and build more efficiently with that energy that is stored up. Here we're definitely going to be e-stalling. E-stalling is when you run out of energy. So we're going to get these guys to start eating as much energy as we can to be able to maintain the production on these metal extractors. So we're going to use a couple of these guys to help with our wind power. We want lots and lots of energy coming in, and we also want lots of the metal extractors being produced as well. So a good balance. Okay, and at this point, we have a decent amount of metal coming in. We're now at around 40 metal per second, which is really, really great. You can see one of these is producing 0.8 metal per second versus one of the T1 metal extractors is only producing 2 metal per second. So it's a very significant increase when we get these boosted up and built. So try to do that as quickly as possible. And now we can actually start to build some of the T2 units that we all love and enjoy. I would recommend not building a sniper right off the bat because the sharpshooters, these are very, very energy dense, and they also take a lot of energy to shoot them as well. So it's something you're going to want to wait on until later on in the game. We're actually going to bring this con back, work on some build power here. So we're going to start overwhelming ourselves with metal. We see our metal is starting to increase. So we want to build power to be able to maintain enough resource productions so that we don't waste our metal. Wasting metal is always a bad thing. You want to use every ounce of it that you can. And keep in mind, the whole time the game is going, you're going to have to be watching your front line. You're going to have to be checking back on your back line, make sure that all of this is happening while also defending your front line. So it's something where you do a little bit of back and forth between your back and your front. So just keep that in mind. You don't want to just be stuck here like I am, because I'm just trying to show you guys how to do it. I'm not really showing you that you also have to maintain your front line. Anyway, so we're getting our build power up. These construction units, or these construction turrets, have a total build power of 200, which is very good at maintaining the proper energy and metal usage so that we don't end up overflowing. It's always better to use the metal you have rather than build metal storage. And energy storage is a little bit more viable, especially with wind, but not as viable with solar panels or advanced solar panels. So I know I'm teaching you guys a lot, especially if you're new to the game. You're probably freaking out thinking, there's so much to learn. Just rewatch the video, try to get down the areas that you struggle with, practice just focus, like write down for yourself on a little pad, I will focus this part of the game and learn that part. Like, okay, I need to focus my opening. I'm going to learn my opening. Or I need to focus what bots I should be building in the very first bot lab. Focus that for a couple games. You'll get it down the more you practice. It's all about practice here, okay? And it's very easy to do. Like I don't want to say it's easy. It takes a lot of practice to get used to it, but you can get the hang of it and you can accomplish it without too much difficulty as long as you practice and you know what you need to work on, okay? So we're going to keep going. We're just trying to maintain a good amount of metal usage so that we don't end up overflowing our metal. So we got some of these T2 units coming out now. We can bring these guys up to the front. I'll probably only build like one more. And then we're going to go into energy. We need to get our energy production because we're starting to run out of energy. Our wind speed is great and all, but it's not going to be enough to fund the T2 economy that we need. Okay, we need a lot of energy, and yeah, now we're really stalling on it. So keep that in mind.
Low power.
Try to get our energy up quick as we can. So now we got another construction unit coming out here, and this guy is going to be producing a fusion reactor. Fusion reactors are very, very valuable, but also very metal dense. So a fusion reactor produces 1,000 energy per second, but also costs 4,000. Oops. It also costs 4,000 metal and 21,000 energy. So they are very expensive, but they produce a ton of energy per second. So always recommend building one of these while also producing, maybe a couple welders, whatever you want. You're probably at the point where you can have a couple of these. Building the sharpshooters last because you want to make sure you have probably a couple thousand energy before you build a sharpshooter. 1,000 energy income to get your sharpshooters out to be able to afford the energy costs that they come with. So our fusion's almost done. We're probably going to grab one more of these guys and start getting a little bit more build power up. We just slowly want to start scaling our build power along with our energy and all the other things that we have.
Game paused.
So when you get your first fusion reactor up, you can see we're starting to waste energy just based on the fact that we have all these solar panels. So we're going to want to build a T2 energy converter. This converts energy much more rapidly, and it also takes a little bit less space than the T1 converters. The T1 converters use 70 energy per second, whereas the T2 converters use 600 energy per second, and it produces 10 metal per second. So these things are even better. One energy converter is even better than an advanced metal extractor. So it produces more energy per second than a metal extractor. This is how you scale your economy to produce massive units like the T3 units that you guys have probably seen in some of the videos.
Game started.
So we're going for this fusion reactor, and we're going to get one of these energy converters down as quick as we can, because right now we're wasting energy. Anytime you're wasting, you want to try to use those resources so that you aren't wasting. Try to be as efficient as you possibly can. We probably need 2 energy converters due to the amount of energy that we have currently. Just cranking stuff out, keeping our front line going. Making sure to check on that on occasion. And your commander, obviously, you won't want your commander to be up this far forward. He could get killed easily. So once your commander starts to get further up, you want to pull him back and keep him probably around this location. As long as the enemy's not too close to him. You just want to make sure the enemy isn't too close to your commander. Otherwise, you could easily die to commander killing him. Okay, and we're going to keep scaling our energy, or our build power here, because we're still increasing the amount of metal that we have to the point where we can't use it up fast enough, which is absolutely crazy. We have tons and tons of metal, and we just can't use it fast enough. Okay, our T2 con is done. We're going to go for a advanced fusion reactor. These are even bigger than the basic fusion reactors, and they cost a lot of metal. They cost 9,700 metal and produce 3,000 energy per second. So they're a huge amount of energy per second, but they also cost a huge amount of metal. So it's going to take a while to end up building this guy, and we probably will end up stalling on metal. But it is worth it in the long run, because these things are how games are won. You end up having a total of 3,000 energy per second incoming, and then you can just use these converters probably around, let me see, 3,000. You can use 5 converters and you'll be able to fund all one advanced fusion reactor. So 5 converters, and that'll be 50 more metal income to your total income, which will be huge. 50 metal income is absolutely fantastic. Anyway, guys, this is essentially what you want to do. From here, you just keep producing units, right? You can change some of these guys to producing only units. Just slowly increase your production. You can add another T2 constructor to build only fusion reactors. That's what I would recommend. Just have one con just building tons of fusion reactors, have another con just building tons and tons of energy converters, and from there you can scale your economy basically infinitely, and even eventually suck up all these windmills so that you have space for those fusion reactors. Anyway, guys, that's what you're going to want to look to do, scaling your build power with your economy and growing your economy as you produce units, and then eventually get to the point where you have enough metal to create T3 units and hopefully push into the enemy and win your game. Hopefully this was a helpful guide. I know it was a long one. Thank you guys, especially those who watched till the end. I hope you enjoyed, and I hope that this was helpful. And if you appreciate it, definitely subscribe. You can also join our Discord page where we all hang out and practice Beyond All Reason and do friendly tournaments and stuff together. If you guys are interested in something like that, definitely check out the link in the description below. We have merch dropping soon, Jaws Munch merch. We got mouse pads that are tried and tested, excellent quality. So be looking forward to that. You should see those coming up pretty soon. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you guys on the battlefield.